From, my teenage years, it became my passion. Like, I need to get back to that school and make it a safe place for kids to learn.
We're here for them to think about ideas. If you fail forward, that's fantastic. We're going to iterate that and see what we need to redo, and then it's going to ignite the school and the community.
I always want my students to understand both perspectives. Be in the middle. Don't just listen to something and jump to conclusions right away. Do your research, do your homework, and listen.
Opportunities for them are endless. Mm-hmm. And what they create affects the community. They will make sure we will never forget the good about what all of our cultures share together.
Hey, you are listening to the What School Could Be in Hawaiʻi podcast.
Hey everybody, this is the What School Could Be in Hawaiʻi podcast series. My name is Josh Rapoon, and today we're here at Hālau Īnana in Mo'iliili in on Oahu. It's August 24th, 2019, and we're with Janice Ochola Blaber, who is the principal at Keaʻau Elementary on Hawaiʻi Island. Mm-hmm. Janice, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having all of us.
This is very exciting to talk to you.
Okay, so I was born and raised here in Oahu, Kalihi, Palama settlement. My mother is from Western Samoa. My father is from Ecuador. And they are, I'm going to see them after this. They live in Pearl City with my brothers and sisters. I went to public school from kindergarten up to 6th grade. And then I went to Our Lady of Good Counsel. And then St. Francis School, which is no longer.
Yes, I know. Yeah.
And then headed off to college in New York City for a year, and then I dropped out of college and then lived in New York City for about 4 years, working on the Upper East Side and 57th Street. Then came back home and decided to follow my dream and become a teacher.
Cool. So Janice, I'm super obsessed with a podcast series called How I Built This. These are interviews by a guy named Guy Raz with entrepreneurs and people who build things. Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily like an app or a piece of technology or a product or something. It can also be people who built amazing things like Teach for America, Wendy Kopp, people like that. And one of the things that I hear as I listen to these podcasts, over and over and over again, I hear people say, yeah, I was pretty bored in college, and so I left because I had other things on my mind, or I had this project that I wanted to work on, or this something that I wanted to build. So you talked about leaving college in New York City. Can you tell us a little bit more about that moment and what was going on in your mind and your life at that point?
I had a lot of anxiety. I was fortunate enough to receive a 4-year scholarship, a presidential scholarship, to go to Pace University, right on the southeastern seaport, like the hub of Wall Street, pretty much.
Right.
And there was just a lot of anxiety because my dream was to become a teacher. And unfortunately, the viewpoints of teaching, especially back then, and hopefully now it's changing, thanks to people like you and to Dr. Kishimoto, was like, if you're going to become a teacher, then why are you going off all the way to New York City to do that? You should be just stay home and go to the community college. So that pressure was on me. I think I wrongly thought I didn't need to be using this scholarship. And then I was also homesick, and so that anxiety of just of not being like, if I want to just be a teacher, then why am I so far away from home?
Right.
And so I gave that up, and I think many great things happened because of that. I went back home, but then I moved back to New York City again.
Right.
I moved back to New York City again and just explored, managed some restaurants. I worked at Planet Hollywood. I bartended. But it was a really good experience for me. Like, my high school days was really about performance.
Right.
Get the letter A, read the books, show people you can do it. And so the life that I had after my first year of college was just about just be and explore, and the stuff I read in books, like I saw it in real life in New York City. And it just furthered my belief that I need to go back and teach. Mm-hmm. My heart is in education.
Ultimately, did you go back to higher education?
I did actually. I met my husband, and on Oahu, I was bartending, and one of the deal breaker was if we are going to get married, you need to go back to college.
That was his deal to you, or your deal to him?
That was his deal. Yeah, and I thought, well, if I want to be a teacher, I'm going to have to go back to college.
Right.
So we moved to Hawaiʻi Island, and I was working at the Four Seasons for 4 days a week, and I just crossed over the saddle every day to take classes at UH Hilo.
Got it.
And then I got a long-term substitute teacher position as an English teacher at Kealakehe High School.
Got it.
And it was like the best years of my life at that high school.
So this is so cool because I did not know this about you. I didn't pick this up in the bio that you sent to me, but your life experience is very similar to mine. I was a miserable student in high school here on Oahu at Punahou School. Cumulative GPA of 2.7. And then I went off to college like everybody was supposed to do, and it was completely worthless for me. I played rugby, I drank a lot, and ultimately I stopped and went to chef school in San Francisco, so I had a whole career as a chef, and then as a hotel manager. And then when I finally went back to get my undergrad in 1990 at University of Iowa, wow, I was a motivated student at that point. So it sounds like similar experience. You had a gap years experience, between the beginning. Yeah. So Janice, I dug deep into your Twitter feed last night. You were a prodigious tweeter, and that's really cool because it really provides a lot of information. Twitter, when it's used in the way that I think it was originally intended, it's an amazing resource for getting to know people, albeit in snippets, but when you add all the snippets up, it can really reveal some interesting things. So you talk a lot in your Twitter feed, you tweet a lot about deeper learning.
Yes.
So what is deeper learning to you? I know that this is a bit of a mystery concept to a lot of people who might be listening to this podcast and who are educators or who are interested in education. What's deeper learning?
So I'm still trying to figure out what deeper learning is. And I will say that right now my current, I think, definition relates to, I was just introduced to this Blackfoot Nation teepee, and it's similar to like Maslow's triangle. And, in Maslow's triangle,
hierarchy
you have,
of learning.
The hierarchy of, you have the very bottom base is the survival, the needs. Well, in the Blackfoot Nation, it's a teepee that reaches all the way up to heaven. And the first level or the first realm is individual actualization, self-actualization. That's the first level. Now in Maslow's, that's the top level.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And then the second level is community actualization. Everything in the community depends on the person, the self-actualization, person's ability to understand that they can do anything, that there's no such thing as hope is only for the other person, that there is a lot of hope and empowerment based on the individual. And then the top part of the teepee is community perpetuity, which is the best parts of our culture are never forgotten. And they're always preserved and makes everything better. So I was thinking about deeper learning. That is what deeper learning is.
Wow.
Deeper learning is, for me right now and for what I'm seeing, just in the mo'olelo that people are telling and in the school when I see our students and the teachers learning, it's the given is you're going to be well fed. You're going to have free lunch. You're going to have free school supplies. All of that's the given. What we have to also make sure is a given for each and every one of our students is they need to know when they walk into the door, when they get on the school bus, when they leave us, that opportunities for them are endless. And what they create affects the community and will, like when we talk about society and talk about the best practices and what we should never forget, they will make sure we will never forget the good about what all of our cultures share together.
Right.
And so how do you do that, right? And one
That's
of the
the
things,
question.
one of the ways is hands-on learning. Never mind saving the learning for read and write because later on, in a few years when you graduate, you're going to do this. The learning is right now, like Kuka Hakalau, the pedagogy of aloha, right? She continues to say that we teach them how to read and write. What's missing is the kuleana part. So what are they going to do with that?
Kuleana meaning?
Meaning the responsibility. So what is that responsibility that they have right now to make sure that their learning is deep, that they affect the community? That's what pono is too. Pono is not just about justice. Mm-hmm. It's about the understanding that what I do and what you do has to be in balance. Right? Everything affects something else. And in this cycle of balance, not just people, but the animals, the aina, everything around us is in balance.
So how do you? Yeah, no. So I'm thinking about the inversion of Maslow, right? Mm-hmm. And that this is very cool because I've never thought of it this way. And I've thought a lot about deeper learning, but I've not confronted it quite in this way. Confronting is not the right word. Mm-hmm. Seen it in this way. So you start with actualization and then community actualization. And then, what do you do in terms of your student body, and you're an elementary school principal, to help make possible that your students are coming to school in that state, that they're on their way to actualization and then working their way towards community actualization, and not just trying to survive? What are you doing at Kea'au on Hawaiʻi Island to get to that?
I hope we're doing the right things. I think that we are. Definitely listening to the students, listening to the teachers, and making sure everyone knows and understands that I do not have the answers. Yeah. Right? That when we come together and we have to really listen, it's hard to listen to people because we always want to just solve the problem right away.
Absolutely, it's hard.
And so I think the number one thing is definitely opening up the ears and talking less. And then, when you're talking more, I think you hit upon that. Like, we have to ask questions just to dig deeper, to understand what's going on. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes, because we're overachievers, we just want to help solve the problem right away, and then we create more problems. So there has been, over the past 2 years, I think I've been doing a lot of listening, and teachers are listening more and asking more questions about what needs to be done to do that, so that we are a place where everyone who comes already knows the possibilities are endless. Mm-hmm. We're not there yet, but we're going to get there. I think
that the traditional view of principals is not one of the listener. That wouldn't be the top quality. It would be more, if I said the word principal, you might say person who delivers the rules or the mandates or the edicts around which the school operates. But you're describing something very different. You're talking about somebody who's being very empathetic. And I'm not sure that that's traditionally the way that we've seen principals. Are you experiencing that now?
I can say that I've realized, and this is my 3rd year serving as principal, that I was not as empathetic as I thought I was. Right. And so I'm realizing more that I need to ask more questions, that I really need to listen more. And I think that's how I came to this understanding, because of all the mistakes I made along the way. Like, you realize, I shouldn't have done that. And the reason why I did that was because I didn't ask the right questions. I didn't inquire more. Right. And I need to be a model of that, and teachers need to be a model of that for our haumana. Mm-hmm. If kids leave school, and it was in the George Couros book that I was reading on the plane, but if the kids leave school less curious than when they came with us, we're not doing our job, and that's curiosity is number one.
Right. I think anybody who would follow your Twitter feed would know that Janice is a reader. You read a lot and you tweet a lot about what you're reading, so that's very cool. Hey gang, stay with us. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to be talking to Janice Blaber of Kea'au Elementary, more about deeper learning and about where she goes to find examples of deeper learning. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
By now, you should be feeling pretty inspired by this podcast and maybe even wondering what steps you might take to become more innovative in your own practice. The Schools of the Future Conference, taking place October 2nd through 4th, is the perfect place to connect with and be inspired by education innovators like the ones featured in this podcast. Now in its 11th year, the conference is innovative by design and is co-produced by the Hawaii Department of Education, the Hawaii Association of Independent Schools, Pillars of Peace at the Hawaii Community Foundation, and the Hawaii Society for Technology and Education. To learn more about the Schools of the Future Conference and to register, visit www.sotfconf.org. Registration will remain open throughout the 3-day conference. Hope to see you there.
Hi, we're back with Janice Blaber, the principal at Keaʻau Elementary. Janice, continuing on this conversation about deeper learning, if you were to direct one of your faculty or a fellow education leader to go somewhere to see great examples of deeper learning outside of Hawaii, where would you send them to?
We were fortunate to go to many schools so far. One school that I'm fortunate to be a part of the community, Kealakehe High School.
Right.
The STEM academy that they have there with Justin Brown and the teachers, he's inspired. And
he's amazing.
He's amazing, and he's like the teachers. Let me tell you, the teachers that we've met on our journey have given me so much inspiration. So that school, definitely. Right. Mm-hmm. We were able to go to Keaʻau Elementary School. We visited the 5th grade team there with Jerry Anna Oki Davidson, Bill Chen. Just their passion,
right,
and their willingness to do anything that they can when it comes to equity and about love for kids, and just how when you talk about school design, they showed my teachers, they let my teachers know, like, this is possible at every school.
Right.
And it's one thing to hear an administrator say, yeah, you can do this, but it's another thing when teachers who are actually in the classroom with like 30 kids every single day saying, no, you can do this, and here's how.
Right.
That's a bigger motivation than any administrator could
So
give.
It sounds like part of your message is go to other islands in Hawaii. You're going to find amazing things. If you go to Waimea Canyon Middle, you're going to find 20% time. Yeah. If you go to Molokai High, you're going to see a micro innovation emerging across campus. I understand through your Twitter feed that you went to Deeper Learning in San Diego, the Deeper Learning Conference 2019.
We did.
What was that like?
That was fantastic. I would recommend everybody going there. It was I think it was also partnership with Stanford D School.
Yes.
There were, I would think, thousands, maybe 2,000 or 3,000 educators were there. We brought a team of about 8 teachers came along.
Wow.
And so it sounds like it was really fantastic. We were able to just have conversations similar to this here with authors of books, administrators of school, students who are doing the work,
right.
and their take and their definition on what deeper learning is and the kind of work that they're doing in schools.
Right. Very cool. I think you also may have experienced Ted Dintersmith's keynote at this Deeper Learning, right?
Yes, I did.
Since I didn't get to hear it, what did he talk about? Do you remember?
He did. He talked. Yes, I think I do remember. He spoke a lot about being brave, right, and disruption, and then he reminded us that our present day is the future that we talked about maybe 100 years ago. It's happening right now,
right.
And so, what are we doing right now to prepare the kids for right now, prepare our communities for right now,
right.
and really just inspired us to. Get
started. We got to do it now.
Do it. Yeah.
We can't delay on this because the future, as Tom Friedman describes it, the age of acceleration is upon us. Mm-hmm. So you recently retweeted a Hermann Hesse quote about busyness, and I thought it would be fun to bring this up because the quote is about how busyness undermines joy. And Janice, you are one busy person. If your Twitter feed tells us anything, you're the busiest bee on planet Earth. So how do you balance your innate curiosity and desire to do this and read this and know this and be involved in this with the sense of joy that comes when you dial back from that busyness and take time?
I think I spent a lot of time this week in professional learning communities with my teachers, and learning about them and learning how I can support them. And then just moving into the classrooms and like doing a hip hop class with fifth graders.
That must have been a blast.
Yeah, that was a blast. It gives me joy. It's, I was talking to my PE teacher on Tuesday in the hallway before school, and so we're standing by where the buses are unloading, and one of the kids comes off and says, Mr. Ideta, so I got my shoes for PE. What time is PE? And so he was like, I'm not sure, because he's not sure, he's running all these PE classes. And he says, I'll see you. And then, so we continue our conversation. And then another student comes off the bus and pulls on my sweater and shows me a bag. And it says STEM project. He goes, Miss Blaber, I almost forgot my materials on the bus, but I got it. I'm so ready for the project. And so how do I balance that with stories like that?
Yeah, right. I totally understand. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So shifting gears a little bit, but you tweeted about #attendance matters. That's my hashtag, not yours. Yeah. This is a hard subject. It's a gnarly subject. Mm-hmm. And I've often said in my most likely to succeed in what school could be work here in Hawaii, that I'm trying every single day not to be stupid and naive. And that I am public school proud. Mm-hmm. And I love being able to affirm what's happening in terms of bright stars across our state. But we have some really hard issues to deal with. So is there any kind of a recipe or secret sauce for attendance and for bringing attendance up in your mind?
If there is, I don't know it. but I can our story right now, our chronic attendance is pretty high. It's in the 20s. We serve a community. I serve the Puna community, our students. So when you think about the Puna community, it's quite different from like Kona or Hawaii Kai, right? Right. And you think about, so our students, when they catch the bus, a lot of times, the bus stop, they have to walk, not on a paved road, and in Keaʻau, it rains. In Puna, it rains all the time. So it may sound like I'm making excuses, but what I'm saying is the infrastructure when it comes to supporting students to get to school really needs to be fixed. Right. There's a lot of poverty, and which is not an excuse, but it is a reason why the deeper learning and the project-based learning is so important. Mm-hmm. We have to, so I tell kids to come to school. I tell the parents, you got to bring them to school. And then my kuleana is, well, what is going to happen at school that's going to make them want to come? Right. And so like that story about the Mrs. Blaber, I got my STEM project. Yeah. Like they're excited to come to school, and so I know that as a person who works in the community, as a mom, as an educator, we all need to work together. Like outside of the school, there needs to be infrastructure, roads, paved roads that are better for our students to get on the bus to come to school. Just the social supports for families that are really struggling in the community, to help them to be just more aware of the importance of attendance, and maybe they are aware, but they're still struggling to get to school. Wow.
So in a way, what you're saying is really what you're delivering is a sort of clarion call to public officials, to our politicians, to our business community. What you're letting them know is that you're doing your part to make school engaging and to get kids excited about coming to school. What they have to do is to build out the infrastructure so that the kids can actually do that. Yes. It shouldn't be, the kids shouldn't have to be that determined and that resilient that they have to fight to get to school. Right. They should be able to get to school. Wow. I want to dig a little bit deeper into school design. Mm-hmm. So as we know, anybody who's paying attention to public school in Hawaii right now, and this is for all you listeners out there who might be looking at us or listening to us, who are out there in the mainland or the other 49 states or the rest of the world. Mm-hmm. What Hawaii is working on in its public schools is basically three pillars, if you will. One is school design, the other is teacher collaboration, and another is student voice. So I want to dig a little bit into how deeper learning and school design play out for you day to day at Kea'au Elementary. What are the things specifically that you're working on that touch on all three of those? And how are you moving your school community forward in the context of those three?
Sure. It would appear that an initiative that started by me was project-based learning or deeper learning, but it wasn't. I think we opened up, our school opened up more professional development opportunities for teachers, and there was an invitation, if you would like to do this, come on down. So when I first got to the school, I know I wanted to learn more about our teachers, and so I started we want to get together and do this action research on project-based learning. And then we had about 6 or 7 teachers come, and I was not a good facilitator of that action research group, and I think it was because, I was still learning how to be a principal.
Right.
But what stemmed from one of the outcomes was a couple of teachers just led the charge on PBL, on project-based learning. And so they went to Kupuho Academy,
right.
And then some went to PBL Works.
Kupuho Academy is a project-based learning, inquiry-based learning, professional development academy that comes out of Mid-Pacific Institute here on Oahu.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And that was 2 years ago. And that was all teachers. Teachers did that. We just say, here is what the opportunity is, and teachers' positive peer pressure. And so from 2 years ago, I can say all but 8 of our teachers are project-based learning, and we have about 60 teachers.
Wow.
And it wasn't because Janice said, you gotta go. It was because other teachers were saying, this is some really good stuff. And when we talk about cultural perpetuity, right? About the best practices of culture, project-based learning is nothing new. That is a
roots.
best practice of learning,
Yes.
And so this is why it's aligned so well with that TP structure. So that is an initiative that actually teachers brought forth. Restorative practices was another initiative, or what we are doing at our school, that teachers also, a counselor and a couple of teachers looked at who we are as a school community, looked at our Puna community, and had decided this is a shift that in our mind, shift in the way that we look at discipline and look at, when you think of the pu'uhonua oho nau, right? Back in the day, about when there was a crime, you went to this place to seek forgiveness, and then you sought out how am I going to also help heal the community? Those are restorative practices, and so that's something that we are learning more about and hoping to, have a deeper learning when it comes to forgiveness and discipline.
Ted's been back to Hawaii 12 times since he first came to this state in May of 2016. And it's so interesting what you're saying, because one of the things that we found as I've taken him to every corner of every island is that there seem to be sort of 2 things that we observe. One is communities where the initiative comes from the principal, and sometimes it doesn't survive because the principal isn't there. And so the community is not bought into it. And then there's another thing that we see, which is what you're describing, which is the torch is actually being carried by the faculty, by the community. And if the principal, for some reason, doesn't stay or happens to go somewhere else, the thing just keeps right on going. We found that at Keaʻau Elementary on Maui. We were astonished at what we were seeing there. But really what the faculty was doing was building sort of a principal-proof shared leadership model, so that no matter who came and went, the thing was going to move forward. So that's super exciting. Hey, everybody, stay with us. We're going to take a short break, and we're going to come back with Janice Blaber to talk about most likely to succeed and what school could be, and the innovation playlist. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Within a generation of 25 years, Kamehameha Schools sees a thriving Lahui where our learners achieve post-secondary and educational success. To this end, Kamehameha Schools is proud to share Hālau Īnana Makapa'akea, an innovation and collaboration space where Native Hawaiian learners converge as a new generation of OEV leaders, innovators, indigipreneurs, and entrepreneurs. The Hālau will host and curate various programs, events, and activities that foster OEV leadership development, creative thinking and problem solving, innovation, prototyping, and incubation.
Hey everybody, we're back. We're with Janice Blaber, the principal at Kea'au Elementary on Hawaiʻi Island. Janice, this has been an awesome conversation. We're kind of in the final segment of this particular episode. I want to talk about Most Likely to Succeed, the film that was produced by Ted Dintersmith and directed by Greg Whiteley. Do you remember the first time that you saw the film?
I do. I remember seeing clips at home or on my computer. And then I was at Kealakehe Elementary School as a vice principal. And then I remember trying to figure out how to bring the film to my school. And then our PCNC.
What's a PCNC?
Our Parent Community Networking person.
Okay.
PCNP.
Yep, good enough. Good enough.
Auntie Pohai, I had spoken to her about it, and then she miraculously figured out how to bring it. She partnered with Kealakehe Intermediate School, and I think Matthew Williams was still there, and we showed it at our school. We brought it to Kealakehe Elementary School, and we were sitting in that cafeteria, and I watched that, and Daryl Galera was there. So Daryl Galera actually helped to bring it. That's who. So
it turns out Daryl is actually a key figure, and most likely because at the time Daryl was on the board, and I think he was the executive director of the Education Institute of Hawaii. And the institute bought a package because Ted had decided to do a community screening model rather than Netflix. And EIH bought the package, and then they screened it across the state. And Daryl was really the principal guy who took it out there. Right. So was this for the whole community or just for the school community?
It was for everybody.
Everybody.
Not as many people attended as we would have liked, but there were some key people in there who attended, and like me.
Right.
I mean, it was such an inspiration, and to have Daryl there, who was a former principal, who understood already the infrastructure of the DOE and what we were working on. This was before Dr. Kishimoto came on board.
Right.
And so, just all the light bulbs in the room were like, oh, okay, this can happen. Daryl is saying it can happen.
Did you find that some of the people in the audience sort of resonated with what they were seeing on screen with High Tech High, but couldn't imagine that Grand Canyon leap?
Yes.
What was that like to know that?
One of our elementary school teachers had said that after the film, when we had our talk story, that she remembers that when she first started teaching, that's how it was almost going to be, and then all of a sudden things change with mandated curricula, with just mandates about it needs to be done this way and standardized tests. And she wasn't sure if she could be hopeful, about if that can happen. Maybe that's only in California at a charter school.
Right.
But with Daryl Galera there saying it can be done. And then I was like, shoots, we can do this.
Right.
It's easy to say, though, but it's really hard to do. You have to do it in teams, I think. You have to bring a network of people together to share the story, share the mishaps and the pitfalls, and also the bright spots to keep you going, because if it can happen in one place, and it's happened before.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, it has.
So we need to keep going.
So a few years later, Ted, after his 50-state tour, wrote his own book. He co-wrote Most Likely to Succeed, the book, which came out after the film with Tony Wagner. But then he wrote his own book, What School Could Be, which is what inspired this podcast series. Do you remember getting the book, and do you remember what it was like reading that?
I do remember getting the book. I think I was at the Schools of the Future conference.
Yes.
He signed my book. Thank you. And I do remember reading it and just being more affirmed that this was the right thing to do, not just for schools, but for the world. This is what is the right thing to do, because as my colleagues have said before me, learning happens everywhere, not in one place. And if we limit it to one place, that's not learning. That's just not learning.
So we've come down to the end of our time today. Wow, this has gone by fast, hasn't it?
Yes, it has.
It's crazy. So I'd like to ask every guest who's on this podcast series the same question around what school could be, but with you, I'm going to do it slightly differently, slight variation. So let's imagine that you are Ted and that you're sitting at his MacBook Air, writing the second edition of the book, What School Could Be. And this time, the Hawaii chapter actually has a segment in it about Keaʻau Elementary and its principal, Janice Blaber. What would you want those words to say to people now that they're going to be in the Hawaii chapter, along with what's already there about Mid-Pacific, about Waipahu, about Kanehunamoku Voyaging Academy? What would you want Ted to be writing about when he writes that section about Keaʻau?
Wow.
I know, crazy question, yeah.
I think, our school's vision is Kea'au Elementary School is the heart of a vibrant community. And so I would like it to be said that the humans at Kea'au, you have to believe in them, and you have to offer as much opportunity as possible.
Right.
And I think that's the essence of learning and the essence of education is believe in the human, right? Don't believe in the program. Don't believe in the mandated this or that, but believe in the human.
Right.
And then miracles will happen.
Education is a profoundly human
Yes.
and humanist experience. And that's what you would want people to say about what's happening in your community.
Yes.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's a great way to end this particular episode. Janice Blaber, Kea'au Elementary Principal, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Cool.
Thank you.
Coming up on the What School Could Be in Hawaiʻi podcast, Melissa Speechins. Find the What School Could Be in Hawaiʻi podcast in Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, and Stitcher, as well as at mltsinhawaii.com. Join the ongoing conversation across social media. Look for Most Likely to Succeed in Hawaii on Facebook and MLTS in Hawaii on Instagram and Twitter. A video of each conversation is broadcast via Facebook Live and also made available on YouTube. We want to hear from you. Send your comments, questions, and feedback to feedback@mltsinhawaii.com. Your host is Josh Rapoon. Our technical producer is Ryan Ozawa. Post-production is by Hawk Media Productions, the digital media program at Kealakehe Intermediate School. Editors for this episode are Aiden Skitte, AJ Rosario, and me, Mei Kanada, under the guidance of Matthew Williams. Learn more at hawkmediaproductions.com. And special thanks to Ted Dintersmith, author and education change agent. Off to your next epic project. Class dismissed.